Well, we are back. I know it's been a while. I know you've been waiting. We've been waiting as long as you guys have as well. But we are about to get back into the games. We unfortunately have had to postpone 2 of our matches tonight due to technical difficulties, and we are going to go ahead with our final game of the night before we round things out for week 5. That is going to be Dusty versus MNM. Now, there has been a shake-up. Medic was going to be casting the first 2 games of the day, but obviously because of the technical difficulties,
I cast it in my imagination. Does that count?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It does mean that we have switched Hitbrain back over to the analyst desk, and sorry, not back over to the casting desk. And I will now be back in host, so that's why you've seen all the changes. But obviously, Trouble and Gulborg are staying here with me on the analyst desk. Now, let's have a little talk about that game, or this game coming up rather. Dusty versus MNM, and if you heard us earlier in the show, don't know how many of you are still here from earlier in the show, but if you heard us earlier in the show, we did talk about the fact that MNM needs to win this to keep any chance of avoiding relegation alive.
Yeah, and I think the thing with MNM is they haven't been able to get a win yet, but this is actually like the best they've looked in a while. I think that yesterday their performance was stronger. They were gifted a few kills early on by Monster Rugby Gaming onto the Aphelios, and I think there were like signs of life for this team. My issue is if you're not beating Dusty, then your only chance of avoiding relegation is making sure that Barrage loses out the rest of their games. And so you're in this really difficult situation where you are relying on other people to mess up, right? And if an MNM can win against Dusty today, they take their fate into their own hands just a little bit more.
Yeah, and problem is that Dusty is starting to look a bit better too. I don't know if we can say they looked better as a team yesterday, but Chelm certainly looked better as a player, and you can still argue that he was facilitated through his laners, and they had a game plan where the Graves was actually supposed to carry. But come on, that game was insane, and honestly, I need more from Dusty than that. I don't know if I would propose this to Dusty, because their style has really been saying we want to take a complicated style, we want to think high level, and we want to be able to execute it. And props to that. But sometimes I think simple is just better for them. And I just wish they had a team composition sometimes where you could see, oh, it's really easy to execute. We just do X, Y, and Z, and then we can team fight, and then we win. And sometimes we don't really see that from Dusty.
And then on the other hand, ease of execution would be the key deal, right? Because you've gone through a whole shuffle on your team. You've brought in a mid lane, Monk is playing on his rightful place down the bot. And then you get a composition where it's reliant on just one guy. Show the veteran in the mid lane energy, but he's just one guy. It's one cage. And if that goes south, then your whole team fight is sort of lost. So I'd like to see them, sort of fall back into their comfort a little bit more, play for the win conditions. I think now they do have the lanes to facilitate Aesthetic to do his own thing. We've been talking about him over and over again, but I do really believe he's one of the win conditions for MNM. And now that you have such a veteran in the mid lane in the likes of Energy, I do believe they can make the 2v2 work.
Yeah, I mean, maybe in the long run for me too, because I actually think that this is an upgrade, as Trouble is saying too. But also yesterday, it did seem like Energy was not really on the page with his teammates, and if they're fixing those issues in one day, it's basically my worry, especially when you're going up against Dusty, which is this series that you really need to win. As Medic said, if you want to avoid relegation, you really need to take a win of Dusty here, or else you need to hope that Barrage suddenly just collapses, and then it's no longer in your hand either. So it's really up to Energy to step up his game too, because while Monk did not look great yesterday, he looked a lot better, and Energy to me still had some cages on that Vega that was a bit off, and he wasn't in the team just yet, and I'm sure that he will get there. My concern is just, is he there today?
I think if you compare just mid laners from both the teams, that Energy is going to get outclassed by Legions. Like, Legions had a pretty strong performance yesterday. His Orianna, the shockwave, especially around that Baron fight, was really on point. But also, you do have to look into the jungle, right? Like, Chleem had that's how we're pronouncing it today, right? Chleem?
Chelm.
Okay. We'll go Chelm. There we go. We'll go with that one. He had such a strong performance, and he showed us that you don't only have to be worried about Coincidence, Legions, and Jack Spectra on Dusty. You also have to be worried about Chelm being able to carry from the jungle. And I think there are just too many powerful players on Dusty in my eyes for MNM to be able to find ways to answer them, especially with this new look MNM squad.
And in all honesty, if the comfort doesn't work, you can also go the singularity way. I mean, you can go full aggression early game, play to your strengths, and kind of try to choke out your opponents in the early and try to snowball. Because if on paper you're a worse team in the late game, worse in team fights, worse in macro, then your only way to sort of win a game right here is by taking people by surprise, right? Taking these early game skirmishes that your opponents don't expect you to do and snowball your advantage that way. So if one thing doesn't work, I would like MNM to try things out. At this point, we're talking relegations. We may be talking of them slightly getting out of relegation. So I think at this point, it's still experimentally, even with the new roster, just throw things in.
Yeah, but to me too, I think that generally speaking, not necessarily yesterday, the bot lane of Dusty has been the talking point, at least for me, that I think that they have been struggling in some of the other games. They have been making some fundamental mistakes, sometimes losing a matchup they might not have, should have lost by any means. And to me, maybe it's just time for Monk to get in there. Maybe it's time to say, okay, we'll play for Monk now. We know that the bot lane of Dusty is the kind of weaker link, if anything, if there is a weak link on Dusty. And if we can abuse that, maybe Monk will carry.
It would be his time to shine, right?
I mean, this is the moment for MNM, and I think the main thing that we need to really impress upon people watching is that if they don't win this, they're out of the NLC in terms of relegations. They're going to be playing a relegation match to fight for.
Technically not quite yet.
Yeah. No. What's the technicalities behind it?
Well, because if Barrage lose the rest of their games, then Dusty can tie up. But it's very unlikely that they'll be able to avoid relegations.
Yeah, because then you have to play Tricked and you have to play Fnatic. And technically on paper, these two teams are like two of the strongest in the group right now. So if MNM can't beat the weaker on paper teams, how do you expect them to go up against Tricked or Fnatic?
Yeah, okay. I guess the way to rephrase that is that if they lose this match, they then have to win everything, and Barrage have to lose everything, and that would be a very slim scenario. Plus, there is that MNM versus Barrage matchup, which I'm sure Barrage would be fighting for to make sure that they can secure a place outside of relegations. But I think really the gravity of the situation is still there for MNM, and I feel for the roster. I feel for the team, and I feel for the roster because they did look better than they ever have in their previous match, and that still wasn't good enough to secure a win. Now, the question is today, Dusty, who have been looking better, are they going to be like, I guess, weak enough in inverted commas for MNM to actually try and find their name on the board? Because I like I said, I do feel for them. I think they really haven't had the roster that gelled together this season, and that's been really tough. But I think this is the place to start. If you've got to start somewhere, it has to be today.
I mean, depends. Is it the Dusty that showed up in all the other games, or the Dusty from yesterday? And to me, that's also a big testimony from Dusty. They need to show that beating Tricked was not just a fluke. Like, that was something that they were actually capable of doing and can do again, actually just repeat it. But if they're not able to do it, if you're meeting the old Dusty that we've seen lose a ton of games, MNM might not have the advantage, but they might have an edge where they can beat them.
I get that. I think the key takeaway for me for the Dusty game yesterday was not that they mind gamed Tricked, right? It wasn't their superior macro. They didn't just outplay the map. They individually outplayed Tricked at times, right? Like and Legions had just some really good plays. Coincidence had some really good flanks, and that gives me a lot of hope for them in a game against MNM where they should be able to individually outclass. So even if you fall in a hole, like MNM got 3 early kills yesterday, right? They got gifted 3 kills.
Yep.
Yeah, they got gifted
dive?
3 early kills, in that dive, and still weren't able to individually outplay. So all that Dusty need to do for me today is play their game and play the way they did yesterday, not even in terms of knowledge of the game or macro, just in terms of individual mechanical skill. And I think they should have this one pretty easily.
And in all honesty, I'm just going to grab what you said. They were gifted 4 kills. Yeah. And very crucially, 1 went to the Graves and 3 went onto an Aphelios. And I think it was something like 11 or 12 minutes in, he had an Infinity Edge. And then if that is still not enough, what can MNM bring to the table? I just really want to see early game, straight down aggression.
Well, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the draft here with Dusty on the blue side, MNM on the red, and this is going to be a very important draft for MNM to make sure that they are giving themselves a platform for success, because any game obviously starts from this point onwards. Going to be a TF ban here. That's going to be taken off the boards. Legion's a very, very good TF player, so that makes a lot of sense.
I'm already in the beginning thinking, okay, Israel is off the table, so we're trimming off AD pools here. We're banning Twisted Faith on the side of MNM Gaming. Usually, if the Twisted Faith is not on the table, Killister is looking way better, obviously, because there's no CC target lockdown. Now, Coincident is already getting his Gangplank removed. Usually, we see him pick that in the second ban phase, but he's a champion that he has been playing a lot.
We gotta see a Yorick ban here as well, right? Unless MNM has specifically curated something versus Coincidence's Yorick. I mean, every single team we've seen so far has banned it against him. And now I'm wondering, if it stays up right here, and there's things such as the Volibear up for grabs, the Ashe up for grabs as a first pick, do you actually first pick blind the Yorick? Is it such a big blind pick for Coincidence that he would go through it blindly?
I think the big thing here is
find
Karthus
out.
is up. Like, Karthus is still available, right? Like, that's the big point for me here, because the Yorick ban is a possibility. Yeah, I mean, Ashe, we've seen a lot of Karma first pick, but it's the first time we've seen Karthus get through pick and ban on 10.14. And so I think if you're Dusty here, you have to pick it, or you give it up immediately to MNM. And it's got like a 57% win rate in bot lane in high elo right now. So Dusty deciding to leave it open is a big surprise to me.
And Monk is a player, right, that would do it, yeah?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he's a mid laner before. Now he's just going back to the Ashe. So it seems like both teams here are not really having any priority on this Karthus. I don't know if Jack Spectre is a big mage player either. So if he haven't been practicing the Karthus in this first week of the news patch, he might not feel comfortable on it, and that's why it's been giving up on. But the Ashe going through over to Monk, we've seen a couple of Ashes so far, and they've been looking very good, actually.
So here's the thing with the Karthus, right? You kind of have to forfeit a lot of your early game. You hit level 6, and then maybe you're threatened in side lanes with your Requiem. I don't necessarily see these two bot lanes doing that, though. I don't see them backing off, and this is why you see the Ashe being locked in for Monk. He's looking for lane domination straight away.
Yeah, just really surprising to see it get all the way through after it's been so high priority in bans so far. But the Aphelios Karma, we've talked a lot about Karma as a support. She gives you good prio in the lane. She gives you good safety as the game goes on. Means that you can play without a dedicated tank if you want to, because of the amount of shielding that she can give the team.
Ooh.
And okay, this is a good idea into the Ashe, right? If you don't want to be held at arm's length and you want to be able to dive in, putting something like the Nocturne in there and then having follow-up with the rest of the team. I think Dusty should really be looking for a hard-engaged top laner like the Ornn. I'd really like an Ornn from them, and I expect MNM will look to try and ban that away.
And Ornn would be one thing. The thing that I'm very much into and I'm thinking about is the Corki in the mid lane, because Legions and Chill could very easily be diving the back line with a package and the Nocturne all together with a Karma shield on them. So to me, Dusty's screaming here, we want to play aggression. They're locking in the Nocturne, and we're looking for further dive in the backline champions such as the Wukong, the Ornn that was mentioned, and potentially the Corki as well.
I really like the Azir pick here too on the third draft here. You already got a really nice composition. You got the Ashe, lots of CC and utility there. You got the Volibear, nice front line. You got the backline damage in the Azir. It's really a nice, well-rounded composition already forming on the side of MNM. My question is Dusty the kind of team that is so creative that they've seen that G2, when they faced an Azir mid, let's put in the Cockmore mid as the counter. I'm not sure if Dusty is that team, but they could be. We've seen some creative stuff from them too.
I mean, I think it would be an interesting pick. I'm not 100% sold on it with the rest of their draft.
Yeah.
Like, if you have Cogmore, Karma, or Aphelios, you then...
And I agree.
You have like Nocturne diving onto the back line there, then trying to play front to back in a team fight. It feels a little bit odd to me. I like the Orianna ban, because I was going to say, like, the Corki is on the top of my mind. Trouble was a great mention, but it's the head move, right? But I think Orianna is also really good into the Azir and gives you an equal threat with the Nocturne, because as the Nocturne jumps in, you then shockwave, right? If I'm Dusty here, I think I'm assuming the Volibear is top, right? Kakan played it yesterday. I think that is a safe enough assumption to make, and then you look to try and get rid of a powerful jungler here, but instead they decide to get rid of Tahm Kench, so trying to get rid of some of the safety for the Ashe.
And I mean, yeah, we could talk about how Dark Khan played it yesterday, but even in draft, you can never just say that, well, he did it yesterday and then he might do it again, right?
Sure.
Especially when it's red side too here, you need to pick either a support, and if you pick a support and you think it's the Karma here, then you can actually save the jungle flex pick and top pick all the way to your counter pick. So that makes sense going with the support here. Now, Alistar, still one of these champions that I'm a bit questionable about. I don't think the buffs he got will make him necessarily come back into the meta, but we've seen teams try him, but not really to success yet.
See, I love the Alistar here because so far we only see the Nocturne dive in the backline. You can very easily well, now it's 2 people. You can very easily take the spell shield and then knock him away with the Alistar because the Ashe is extremely mobile and she is going to need some help. Now, what I'm seeing here from Dusty, is a little bit all over the place because the Nocturne wants to fight early into the game to get some pressure down. The Kassadin is not necessarily a champion that gives him much priority in the mid lane, and also you can't necessarily fight with a Kassadin in the early game, so the bet here would most likely be bot lane dives, but with the Alistar locked in, that's out of the question as well.
Yeah, the Alistar actually does a really good job of disengaging some of the Dusty composition. I do like what they've done with the Kennen last year. Again, I think you could have gone on, but what we often see with Kassadin comps is you don't have the other people diving in alongside him, right? Like we always talk about, it's like, what's the Kassadin expected to do? Jump into 4 people by himself? But here you have the Nocturne going in, you have the Kennen sped up by the Karma, and now we're going to see Mundo locked in as the final lock here. So it looks like it's going to be Mundo top Volibear support, the jungle, sorry.
In all honesty, I do like the Kennen in general, but here to me, it looks a little bit crazy because Alistar can knock him away. Azir, with one press of a button, can completely destroy his ult by shuffle him away from his team. There's just so many tools right now in MNM's kit that can stop the Kennen from getting deep into the team. So when you have 3 people diving at the same time, it will be that much easier for Azir to sort of collectively push them away. I just want to see how Dust is going to use their abilities to make sure that they stick onto the targets.
I really like this Mundo pick coming in as R5. The thing is with Mundo is he got changed way back that people don't realize is when he points into his E, he gets more magic resist. So when you're playing against double AB composition, and if Kennen can't punish you in the beginning, you actually got a pretty beefy frontliner against this composition. But, I mean, until Spellbook on Kennen, he might go Ignite, you might die. It's a risky pick, but let's see where they're going with it.
You could always go AD Kennen. I'm just going to put it out there, just in case they do it, because then I sound smart, right? So.
Of course. And that, Medic, is the most important thing. Let's hand over to our casters, Hitfrain and Orgs. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Scoundrel. Hello and welcome back for our final game of the NLC. All right, Orcs, talk to me a little bit about these, about the champ select here, because it's been a bit spicy. I'm really liking what Dusty are trying to do, but they did kind of hit on with Eliwood on this Alistar. There was a bit of counter dive. What are you making of the current situation with these 2 teams?
I mean, essentially, we're seeing a situation where Dusty are going to have priority bot lane. They're going to have priority top lane for the most part. Mid lane's a bit of a black hole, but it's curious they're scaling. I mean, Ashe and Azir spike really well on like your 1-2 item breakpoints. 3 is good as well. But when it gets into the heavy late game, when you're looking 4-5 items, Casting just outvalues all that when he's level 16. Aphelios as well with the Karma. So it kind of means that Dusty have that secured late game facilitated, but they also have tools that they can use earlier in the game to try and punish this backline of MNM. Sure, the Alistar is a strong disengage tool, but an Ashe is going to be hard to protect against the likes of a Casting, Nocturne, and the Kennen. And it very much is going to be MNM trying to play front to back, keep their backline safe, whereas Dusty are going to be rushing them down. And then they also have this Aphelios who's going to be able to shred through these tanks on the side of MNM.
Yeah, we are loading through into the game in a second. Just waiting for a quick little issue to be resolved, but at least we're here for some League. Now, I want to talk a little bit about MNM. Yesterday, they had a lot gifted to them. Monk got pretty fed on the Aphelios in lane, and it still wasn't enough. What is going wrong here for MNM? What do they need to start to work towards if they're going to pick a winner? Because for them, it's not do or die yet, but it is bloody close to being do or die.
I think the decision making needs to be a little bit sharper. I think sort of your position on the map, not getting caught out nearly as much, it is really important in this situation. And very much in this game. If MNM lose Monk Energy, they just lose the fight. That's it. It's over. Especially past the mid game, because after that point, Kakan and Aesthetic just won't be able to put out enough damage to win, especially against things like Karma Shield and the Kennen CC. So it's just very much going to be a situation where getting the gold on Monk is fine. We saw that yesterday. Obviously, if you can get 3 kills early on a Monk, great. But that doesn't matter if you can't protect him. At the end of the day, he's still playing an AD carry. Azir, even with all his utility and his ability to disengage, is still squishy. So if we have Dusty diving onto them, it's going to come down to whether they can weather the storm there as to whether they come out ahead in the team fights. And even if we see MNM come out strong in the early game, which they can do, they have priority mid lane, they have a strong jungler for skirmishing. The problem is if they get to mid game and they can't protect the carries, it just doesn't matter at all. Yeah, that is obviously going to be the concern. And we look back over towards Dusty as well, who yesterday got a big upset for themselves, getting a win over Nordavind. Was Nordavind the beat, right? Yes. I'm having a brain fart on that. No, that was Singularity beat Nordavind. Dusty beat Tricked. Dusty beat Tricked, yeah.
They beat Tricked, my bad. After winning over Tricked, and one of the members who really stood out and kind of a defining factor in that game was Coincidence on this Kennen. His flanking was impeccable, constantly finding avenues to go in with a Slicing Maelstrom, taking Soph out in the Dragon Pit as well, and securing the Dragon, denying the soul from Tricked. So big. So I really want to keep my eyes on Coincidence. Kakan has now picked up this Mundo to try and temper that and control him. So we'll have to see whether or not Kakan's going to be able to deal with Coincidence in lane. Obviously the Kennen is a bit of a lane bully, so we'll have to see if Kakan can keep Coincidence locked down. But it does look like everybody is all good to go, loading into the Rift.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, my concerns for MNM is if mid lane fails. Because right now we have a bot lane who are going to lose in priority because they're against Karma and Phelios, and you have an Alistar. One of the big problems with Alistar is the fact that you can't really do much in response to the enemy team in level 1 because you don't have your combination in terms of finding a gap closer. So level 1, instantly Jack Spectre and Fiddle will just be able to bully, harass them out. And in the top lane as well, the Mundo can find issue with just the Kennen having the range advantage. So that's my concern in the fact that MNM's only prio lane is mid. And if Energy has difficulty, if he gets engaged on, if Fiddle roams up to cause issues for him, they could just fall apart. Now, what I do want to bring your attention to is I've seen phase rush on Li Wood on this Alistar. So I guess in the thought process is once you've done your combo, the extra movement speed means you'll be able to proc your trample and then get that stun off. But it does mean he's going to be a little bit squishier in these engages. Now, after you hit level 6 and he has the ultimate, not a problem. You're not really concerned about lacking aftershock because you have your ult to keep you safe. Pre-6 though, he is going to be a bit vulnerable, especially if Jack Spectre and Fiddle do manage to chunk him out.
Let's keep our eyes on how Energy is going to handle this lane versus Legions. Legions obviously kind of want to just sit back and scale on the Kassadin. Looks like our junglers are starting up on the top side of the map a piece. Svedic on his red does get a leash from Kakan as Chill. Starting up over on his Wolves, actually.
I think a big factor as well, just going back to the Alistar with phase rush, we saw a similar situation with Set, where Set's biggest thing is he wants to gap close. So I have no doubt this is going to be Nimbus Cloak, Hex Flash, Alistar. And basically, you can see now, I mean, look at the bot lane. You can see how zoned off they are. Alistar can't do much other than that at level 1. But the whole reason for this pick is you play for that level 3 point when you have a ton of CC, a ton of all-in damage. And by that point, Dusty will be pushed up. You have the opportunity to potentially punish them. Now, I feel like Dusty are going to try and crash this wave and bounce it just to give themselves safety. In that situation, they won't be as easy to punish.
Yeah, looks like this wave should just get pushed in. Monk and Ellie would not want to step up. Like you said, Alistar's kind of not a champion until at least level 2, but level 3 is obviously going to be good for the early spike. Chelm's done a full clear of his top side. Moving over towards the bot lane, and Aesthetic's actually made his way over. A ward by Dusty means they will spot out, and I actually think this works out for MNM here because the wave isn't going to completely hard bounce like they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if Monk and Ellenwood can just keep the wave frozen there, there's this constant threat. Now, the one concern is that we see Aesthetic going pretty aggressive. If he gets caught out here, he doesn't have any support yet.
Chelm has seen him. Looking to try and jump on. Aesthetic jumps in with a Thundering Smash, and oh my lord, First Blood Fiddle goes down. Easy pickings for Aesthetic.
Just a great response there. They have the CC and the all-in damage. Fiddle was wandering over thinking, oh, Aesthetics overextended, but a beautiful punish synced up between them. And although there was a lot of flashes burn on the side of MNM, Eliwood has Hex Flash, so not too much of a problem. He can still find those all-ins.
And look, Aesthetic is still bot lane. Still seeing if he can punish Jack Spectre. Jack does not have his jungler or his support quite close enough, but that Scryer's Bloom by Chelm was potentially life-saving for Jack Spectre. Chelm making his way over as well as Eliwood, like I said, is sitting about with that Hex Flash. Channeling up, and Jack's actually going to get jumped onto here, but Fiddle comes in with a shield, and Eliwood just going to taxi out with a minion.
I like it though. I like the early pressure onto this bot lane. Obviously, Karma, Phelios scales incredibly well, but they don't have super great tools for dealing with these all-ins. Obviously, something like Lulu has the polymorph, which is extremely effective. Karma doesn't have that instant hard CC. And it just allows MNM to play a lot more aggressive around this bot side. You can see mid lane, though, Energy having a really great time against Legions. Just having that range advantage does cause issues with the casting. Even past level 6, because obviously you can't Rift walk in every situation, but especially at this point, pre-level 6, Energy could just take control of the lane.
Now, Chelm just about making his way before the vision fades away, so hasn't been spotted yet, although Svedic is going for an invade, and we'll see him. Chelm just trying to power up for this level 6 mark. Want to see how well he uses the paranoia. Svedic may just look for a dive onto Legions. Legions already going very, very low. Has got the flash, but is able to clear the wall as Svedic looks to hunt him down. Legions on the run as the Sky Splitter shield is enough to slow, and Energy secures the kill.
This is a problem. You have a scaling mid laner who's getting bullied out, and you have a jungler who doesn't want to interact before level 6. It's just a recipe for disaster, in all honesty. And Legions obviously does have TP to get back in the lane, but it's still not good to be going down this early, giving over a kill to Energy. And really, if MNM get this momentum, this is that opportunity to have that strong mid game we were looking for.
Picked up the Catalyst, has a bit more survivability, a bit more tankability to him. And also bot lane. Jack Spectre and Fizzle had a good time starting in this lane. They were able to get some advantages and punish and push MNM in, but with the attention Aesthetic put down, the wave actually got stuck in a really awkward space for a long time for Jack Spectre, then Fizzle dying as well. Meant that actually MNM's early kind of loss out in the lane has been bounced back, and now Monk's been able to go back to base, pick himself up a Vamp Scepter and an extra longsword. Meanwhile, Jack and Fizzle are stuck trying to hold the wave here, but it's a pretty big wave that should bounce this back.
Yeah, they're fine with it in this position because they're actually got a frozen in front of the tower for now. And even if it will eventually bounce back, it's a nice spot there for them to remain safe. There's not much an Alistair can do in that scenario. Now, it will sacrifice the dragon, which is important for MNM. They want to secure that before getting to the later stages. But ultimately, Dusty's bot lane are happy just to farm this one out. And it does put Monk in a vulnerable position. But speaking of vulnerable,
yeah, Eliwood comes in, delivers Fizzle back. Fizzle gets ignited and shielded down. Monk will take him up. The teleports are being used, and Jack Spectre has to flash away. In comes Coincidence with a massive slicing maelstrom, locking them all in place. Jack Spectre gets the fear off into Kakan, and Eliwood on the run. But Kakan flashes forward, answers out. Eliwood gets the knock up, but Coincidence will be able to secure the kill. Dusty come up big in the fight.
and essentially having the top lane at TP, obviously huge for Coincidence to come in with that ultimate, which is a really huge spike at level 6 for the cannon. And on top of that, it was jungle difference. Chelm was there, Aesthetic was not. Numbers advantage, obviously, given a big help over to MNM. To Dusty.
Although there was I believe, an equal punish out there from MNM, but it was a good teleport and a good answer from Coincidence. Kind of showing us more of what he did yesterday on the cannon. Just really, really smart reading when he can pop his R, when he can come in with a teleport flank, and that was enough to turn what could have been a really, really rough play for Dusty into at least a neutral one.
Yeah, and I mean, the one element of it is that Dusty now have level 6 on the Paranoia. That engage could have been really bad for them initially with the Karma instantly dying. But the numbers advantage was what kind of saved in that scenario. Now, Monk is taking a bit of poke here, but they are essentially just fishing. They have to be cautious, so Paranoia being available means you can always expect Chelm to be within vicinity just to help out. Should a play start, you have to expect the knockdown will fly in.
And Legions also went missing there, so MNM for a short amount of time weren't sure where this Cassadin was. which means suddenly he could be in a 4v3 situation. But for now, Fennec looking for an opening. Jack Spectre gets knocked up, CC'd and taken down. Monk's able to secure the kill as Fiddle just trying to survive. The Paranoia is being used by Chelm. There is no really anywhere for him to answer. Just jump in onto Eliwood. Fennec's now tanking the towers. The fear will get broken. And Legion's actually coming in with a Rift Walk. Looking to answer out with a quick kill for himself. Eliwood will get taken down and Chelm could be next up. This is Fennec on the run. They trade out 2 for 1. MNM doing a good job of just constantly picking on Fittle and Jack Spectre in this lane.
I mean, this is the power of the Ashe. This is why a lot of people pick this champion specifically against Aphelios, because he is immobile. You just press that R button. Very good follow-up. And if we're talking diving potential, Volibear and Alistair, 2 of the best. Disable the tower, and then you have Alistair who can grab aggro again, and obviously has his ultimate to take reduced damage. Very hard to find safety for Dusty's bot lane, even if they are underneath the tower.
This means Jack Spectre is pretty weak at the moment. He's just got the pickaxe, got the coal. Monk building towards that Blade of the Ruin King. Got the build towards the Cutlass finished up.
I mean,
it is rough here for Dusty.
Critical thing is the summoners as well. That's what we got to keep track of, because they just keep getting burnt. Right now, Jack Spectre, cleanse coming up soon, flash a bit longer. He really needs them for a safety net. And then at least when MNM do force, you should be able to get out and at least stall them out for a little bit longer before they have another setup to go for it. For now, Aesthetic is just going to clear out this Herald. You can see Chilm's on the bot side of the map. And he's trying to apply some pressure onto Kakan under the tower.
Sadism actually was used there. Coincidence does have the ultimate, and Kakan just trying to clear the minion wave out, but with everyone about, the CC, the lockdown, and Kakan is just burnt through. Legions picks up his second kill.
Good dive there, and obviously easy to execute with the cannon ultimate to lock Kakan in place. Even at this point, the Mundo isn't that strong. Doesn't have the Spirit Visage. As you said, Sadism was down. Just an easy pickup. And I think that's the critical thing, is that Mundo doesn't have hard CC, so dives against him, especially earlier on, are pretty easy to execute.
Especially the Bilgewater Cutlass pick up the Coincidence. I believe with the fact he's just gone Revolver, does mean we are going to see the Hextech Gunblade. So it's not the Blade of the Rune King. It's not the on-hit Kennen.
And I think it makes sense, because to me, there's like 3 variations. There's obviously the on-hit Kennen, which is best in the side lane, but quite weak at the moment. There's Protobelt Kennen, which is optimal team fighting because of the extra mobility. And then there's Gunblade, which has a lot of strength in the side lane while still being AP, which is relevant in team fights. And you do need to be able to punish Khan out. The sustain is nice to withstand in the cleaver damage, but ultimately it's still an AP cannon, because in team fights, that is what they need to deal with Monk and Energy.
He's just getting some gold in his pocket early, though, is a positive sign, considering how badly Fittle and Jack Spectre have kind of found the last 11 minutes of this game, to be completely fair. They do have the Kassadin scaling up. He's level 9 at the moment, so level 11 at least gets the second point in his Rift Walk. MNM, though, are doing a good job of answering out. His Energy actually shuffled in forward. Fittle gets caught out by the ultimate, and Energy's able to pick up the kill. Fittle just having a really, really poor showing on the Karma this game.
And this is a first pick Karma that's been punished so hard here. And this is one of the issues with the champion, is that you are a vulnerable target. You are something that can be punished, that can be capitalized on, and MNM are doing it frequently.
Paranoia's going to get used. So much damage thrown down, and that's the shutdown for Legions. Energy's teleported in. Legions has to jump away, but Jack Spectre cut down by Energy. Dusty just unable to find the trade they need. And MNM punishing hard.
And honestly, that was good for MNM, considering how much Monk just inted there. He threw out his arrow to spot out the rest of Dusty. He sees Legions coming, and yet he walks under tower against an Aphelios with Gravitum. What do you think he's going to do? Oh, he roots you? Wow, what a surprise. Oh, you're dead? Wow, what a surprise. We'll see the replay here. It's like he throws the arrow, he knows they're coming, and still he walks under tower and gets rooted. It's like, what do you expect, honestly? And the fact they went 1 for 1, just testament to Energy being quick on the TP. So all in all, it's still fine for MNM, but you can't be making those mistakes in this game, because there are only 2 carries on MNM. They need them to remain safe when there's so much threat on Dusty. Monk, you need to just play more safe.
And yesterday was the best thing we've seen for MNM, and Monk was the one who got all the gold, but wasn't really able to action it effectively on the Aphelios. This time on the Ashe, he's doing pretty good. He's up over Jack Spectre.
That's my concern, is that he's doing well, but there is definitely an opportunity for Dusty to punish him. They have the tools to do so, and looks like Jack Spectre going for the mana immune on Aphelios. I haven't really seen this. We did see him go mana immune on Ashe yesterday.
Yep, that's the cleanses. Monk looks to go in. The Infernum's down. Lots of damage coming out from Monk, though. Coincidence is able to hold the top lane from the Rift Herald charge. Jack Spectre getting chunked out. That level up heal for Monk actually means that MNM may just go for a dive. Teleports come in and they're trying to buy some space. The shield's onto Jack Spectre. Throws out the Graviton, but he will get taken down. Double teleports are coming in and Monk will get picked up by Legions. They trade out 1-for-1, but Coincidence, the slicing Maelstrom, locks Kakan in place as he is just going to be slowly but surely cut down. Coincidence secures the kill as Eliwood will get another one onto Fiddle, but Dusty this time answer out favorably in the fight.
Just overzealous there from MNM. Yes, it was an initial good kill, but they end up going too far. And look at who is picking up all the rewards from this. Legion's now 5-1 on this casting. And we're going to see the replay here. I mean, they just managed to quickly take out, not as quickly as they'd like, is the thing. You'd like to think they could quickly take out Jack Spectre there, but the fact that Monk had to walk so deep on the tower is the problem. The fact that the TPs can come in is the problem. If that had been an instant kill on a Jack Spectre without the Karma Shield, this would be a very different story, and we could have seen MNM having a successful play and potentially even just forcing teleports to an enemy team for nothing. But now, level 11, 5-1 casting, he's got his core items. Yes, the Ceres isn't quite stacked, but this is worrying for MNM. You have a minute 30 on that dragon. Your mid-game spike is huge, so you want to play to that win condition. But if you have to deal with these things like the casting, like the cannon, you could have trouble. And yes, Monk is ahead, we can see in the gold. Solo laners are the ones who are down.
Pretty significantly as well. 700 gold between the mid laners. 600 gold between the top laners as the turret will fall down. It looks like, for now, Dusty are setting up around this bot side of the map. They recognize that the last thing they really want to deal with is a soul getting picked up on the side of MNM. It is just a potential extra win condition. So going to try and take down this turret, pick up some extra gold onto Jack Spectre, get the vision in their favor around the dragon. You can see with the quick toggle, MNM have no vision, while Dusty have got this area lit up pretty effectively for themselves. This is what MNM can see as of now. Although, there is a shove by MNM in the mid lane, and Legions is going to struggle to actually clear out the wave without getting in the face of it.
Problem is that the only range on MNM is Energy and Monk, and they can't walk up. Because if they step up to the tower, there's a chance they get engaged on and die. Now, MNM are going to get the Herald here. They could throw this down mid for pressure, but they have no control over the dragon area. This dragon's spawning in 10 seconds, and it's all Dusty, all their vision. You can see the amount of control wards they've thrown down. It's going to be pretty difficult for MNM to step up, so I think they're going to use the Herald to try and get some pressure, and then push in towards this dragon. Now, they'll throw the arrow down.
Look at Coincidence on that flank. He knows what's going on. Doesn't get spotted out by the Scribes. Eliwood will finally find him. Gets the speed up for the moment. Coincidence flashes in. That's a massive slicing Maelstrom. Monk is already going to get taken down. Shelm's forced to flash away as Coincidence is on the run. Just about surviving. Coincidence is still alive. Kakan takes him down as Legions picks up a double kill. He's on for a Aesthetic. Kakan is going to take out a kill on to Jack Spectre. Meanwhile, as Legions gets a triple kill, Dusty find the ace.
Dusty crushed them. Beautiful flank coming in from Coincidence there, and their cleanup is so easy. And we see just a massive problem from MNM. If you're late to the objective, if you don't set a vision, it's so easy to get flanked like that. And we said at the start of the game, MNM, you need front-to-back compositions. You need Monk and Energy to stay alive. And as soon as they fall, they die. And we're going to see that one again. Coincidence with a beautiful flank. Eliwood tries to stop a Bakan, and then it's just a triple collapse onto Monk. Monk goes down, and then it's only Energy as the last carry. He gets chased down. At this point, it's just 3 tanks. And no matter how much work Kakan tries to do there, he just can't handle the Aphelios, and it's just a lost fight at that point.
This is exactly what we saw out of Coincidence yesterday. He was, I would argue, the defining factor of what won Dusty the game yesterday. And it was on this Kennen. He, again, is showing up massively, considering how poorly the bot lane has been showing up for Dusty. 0-10 as a bot lane combined. Coincidence has done some crazy work, and sure, Legions has been able to also mop up. He's got 8 kills, but I think it's off the back of how well Coincidence has been TP flanking or just setting up his flanks on the Kennen right now.
And that's the thing, is you look to consistently punish the spot lane, but having a Nocturne and having a Kennen with teleport, it's just great to counteract them, punish them in return. Arrow misses, and at this point, I feel like MNM have lost their momentum. They're going to throw down the Herald mid. Could see Dusty look to respond to this, though.
It probably will result in the mid lane tower. Monk stepping up.
Will now.
Does need to be a little careful. They may just get a second charge out. He's just trying to pick the blue buff up. They do have the Infernum to clear out most of the wave. This should just be the end of the turret, but Coincidence once again on the flank. The Legacy Shroom has been placed down, and Monk walks into Legion's face. The Paranoia has already been used. Same with the ulti. If they're going to jump in, look for Coincidence onto that flank. He has the Slicing Maelstrom, instantly headbutted out, but he's locking members down left, right, and center. Coincidence in the middle of everyone as Legions is able to pick up the kill. Dusty now forced to scatter away from the MNM members, but Legions jumps in again, finds himself a double kill. Anyone will fall down. It's a triple kill for Legions again, as he's able to blink out. Kakan has found himself stuck between Dusty and the base as they will just mince through his health bar. And it's an ace once again for Dusty.
Dusty take it slow. They might find a huge chunk onto Monk, and then it's just cleanup duty for Legions. He is a monster on this Castin right now, and it's as good as over, it feels, for MNM. When Castin is 11-1 already, it's really feeling a little bit helpless.
Got the building of the Lichbane as well on the way here for Legions. Let's have a little look at that fight again, because Coincidence once
Monk
again,
just steps up
beautiful
alone.
flank.
Why are you walking that direction? Face checks into Legions, gets chunked out. That's one carry down. And then as much as there's a good headbutt to keep Coincidence away, it's not enough. And Legions finds the opportunity to kill Energy. And after that point, the Castin's basically invincible. There's no one on the side of MNM who can finish him off out of these 3 tanks, especially with the magic damage reduction against Mundo. So it's just easy cleanup for him. And at this point, I am really concerned for MNM's chances.
Once again, it looks good in the bot lane for MNM, but the execution is just off, a little weak, a little scattered.
I mean, it's just Monk's positioning and the team fight setup has been really poor, and that has been the problem here. Now MNM looking to collapse here.
Yeah, Ashara is going to go a little bit wide. Fiddle's there with the shields. They may just look to turn this around onto Kakan. Legions is in for a little bit of hurt as the Paranoia has been dropped, and that's the end of Chelm. Legions is going to have to run away.
I mean, I know what the theory is. The theory is jungler down, let's start Baron. But I see this level 14 casted and I think,
Especially with Coincidence about... He's almost got the flash. He does have himself the blast cone to get over the wall. Jack Spectra's making his way over. And look at the flank from Legions. This could be one messy fight already. Monk takes a fair amount of damage. In goes the steal. It's not going to be quite enough, but the Slicing Maelstrom cutting through MNM's health bars. Coincidence is blown up on the tail end, though. And MNM actually do have a bit of health to work with. Jack Spectra trying to fire the damage out as Legions goes in, uses the Zonyas. They get the Side Splitter shield off. They get the shutdown. They might just look for Jack Spectra. Energy jumps in forward, and Jack's forced to run away. MNM have just turned the play back around. Monk gets the kill onto Fiddle. Jack's the only one standing, and MNM get out with 4 with Baron.
I mean, I'm just criticizing their team fighting in Monk's position, and that was flawless. You feel like against a Castin this strong in the Baron pit like that, it was going to be over. But we can watch it again, and it just feels like you could see Monk avoid the ult coming out from Coincidence, flashes the damage from Legions, and then it was a beautiful Emperor's Divide just to block off Dusty from pushing in. They deal with the frontline dive, and then when Legion comes in again, Jack Spectra struggling to find headway. Good CC straight away onto Legions, and essentially it was just very good micro back and forth. No one overstepped, no one pushed forward too far, and it was played front to back. In such a tight place, it seemed impossible, but MNM somehow found a window there, and it was amazing to see.
I think I would have rather, instead of Legions popping the blast cone to get like a flank slightly quicker, Coincidence had the flying with the blast cone. But Chelm will take the Ash Arrow up, just eating up for the moment. Coincidence has almost got Slicing Maelstrom. He does have the Flash and Smite available as well. Legions looking to zone Kakan off as Dusty. They're not quite done. They still want to continue the fight. The Blue Ward will get thrown down, and Legions looking to find Monk. Paranoia's been thrown down already. Coincidence slides in. The Dragon's been picked up, and Coincidence is just popped. But they do get a return kill onto Monk. Chelm has to jump away as Legions gets the shield off on the Seraph. Jack Spectre is doing negative damage, however. They just trade out 1 for 1. Dragon picked up for MNM. That's a massive win for them.
I mean, they got the Dragon. That's essentially what they wanted, so they'll take that. But, I mean, I was just praising the team fight and Monk's positioning. Kind of just face-check the cast in there.
You keep cursing people, mate. Every time you say something positive about a team, they make a bit of a mistake.
But he literally just ran straight into the cast in the brush. I'm like, well, what do you expect to happen? But energy was enough of a threat, and he has really been the one driving these team fights. 7-2 now, doing so much damage, constantly with the Emperor's Divide, finding space. And we talked about energy coming into this team, finally having a real mid lane, and he's doing so much work for them.
I am just not sold on this Manamine build for the Aphelios. It just feels like Jack Spectre is not doing any damage.
I mean, he doesn't have the crits. His crit chance is still only 25%. Doesn't have those big Infinity Edge crits. The Manamune's not stacked yet. The raw AD is great. And obviously, when he scales up and gets later items, it will be relevant. Manamune gives so much attack damage for that one slot. But it's like, you want to play to your spikes. You want to be relevant sooner. Because now, we're looking at a point in the game where MNM are super strong. Energy has Rabadons and the Nashes and the Zhonyas. We have Monk with his 2 core items on the Ashe, only really lacking the Infinity Edge. And ultimately, it's a situation where Dusty can't really cut through the front line right now. They don't have the armor penetration, don't have the magic penetration. So Kakan is super tanky, Aesthetic is super tanky. Later in the game, they will be shredded like butter. But for now, I think MNM are feeling really strong, despite the fact they're a little bit down in gold.
Now, the only thing I will say is Dusty have not really been hard punished from this Baron take. Sure, they got completely smashed in the team fight, but there hasn't been really any structures picked up from MNM from that Baron. They did obviously get the Dragon, which puts them 1 away from Infernal Soul, so you could argue that was the gain they got from the Baron. But as long as these structures in the base stand, Jack Spectre can farm up. And as we move later, like you said, these tanks will get harder and harder to, well, they'll be easier and easier to kill. And the front-to-back team fight might just get a little bit rougher for Monk and MNM, especially with the fact that you have the one-shot coming in from Chelm, Legions closing on that level 16 mark. Because he's already doing a lot of damage to Kakan. Lichbane doing a lot of work here. And it looks like Dusty are the ones actually to get some free time on a tier 2 in the mid lane. So they're actually answering out well here. Eliwood coming in with a flank. Gets the headbutt pulverized off. Coincidence waiting to see if he can get a flank off. And Dusty going to be okay just to walk away. Fiddle did have to burn Flash, however.
Fiddle did have to burn Flash in that situation, but does make him a vulnerable target, but you're still fine without the karma as long as you can sit back, still provide the shields to everyone else. You shouldn't be too concerned in that situation. A nice punish there from MNM. I felt like maybe they lose their mid tier 2 in that scenario.
Hopefully, we're just going to have a quick update on what's going on with the issue there. However, might have a... All right, I'll get information in a minute because I'm seeing different bits of information. I want to make sure I don't say the wrong thing, but hopefully we'll get this sorted. Man, this gold lead is only 400. This game is very, very close, all things considered, but you have to kind of take stock of where the gold is, where the kind of leads are, and what the teams are using with that lead. So obviously with the gold being completely even, MNM are up in Dragons. Dusty do have a hyper stacked Kassadin. So we're going to have to find out what's going on for the moment. But
yeah, I think we're just having some issues between the players. So we'll wait and see and have that worked out. And then hopefully we'll to resume the game. Now, though, really close. And that Dragon is coming up in a minute 40.
Yes, and I feel like that's going to probably be the big point of contention. Just kind of having I've still got the screen up so I can have a quick look at the map. There is no vision for Dusty. Looks like we are about to get back out of this pause in a second, but there is literally no vision for Dusty. They've got 2 minutes realistically to go set vision control up. But MNM have already started to set that vision control up, so it gets harder to face check. I believe the Scuttle Crab has been taken out for MNM as well, so they have a permanent point of vision.
It's now just playing for that Infernal. And we talked about how the scaling of Dusty does favor them in the later stages. Infernal Soul can really turn that around, especially when we talk about them lacking damage without those carries. We will see a little bit of an issue for Dusty, because suddenly when Kakan has that extra burst on those cleavers, when Aesthetic's doing a bit more, it feels less painful if Monk does go down, and Energy will be absolutely slamming them with those soldiers.
26 minutes on the clock. The teams are converging around this mid lane. You can see that Dusty have got the push in the bot side for themselves for the moment. But of all the members MNM have been able to pull down to this side in the mid, they want to fully remain in control of the area. Shoving in, placing the vision down. Also, Baron spawning up in 11 seconds as well.
And that's the thing,
can kind of just pull Dusty wherever they want.
That's the thing. If Dusty get the dragon, it doesn't mean much. It's just one dragon. But if they, which is why MNM are happy to trade the Baron for it. But for now, they get control of that side. They're going to push mid up, and then they're going to try and contest in this dragon area. Vision control is super important because you want to try and deny the flanks from Legions and Quinstance. You can see Quinstance is trying to find this angle here.
Not been seen yet. MNM are making their way over. There's a lot of vision to walk through. Look at all those control wards. Great Squire get used there from Jack Spectre. And Coincidence still on the flank. Has been spotted out by Pink. He's about to walk over. He does have the flash available and that blast cone. The paranoia is being used. In comes Coincidence. Flashing in forward. Instantly shuffled back. Gonna have to use the Zhonya's for the moment, but the Sky Split has been used. Legions goes golden in the middle of the team. Jack Spectre's trying to pump the damage out, and actually MNM's health bars are being absolutely obliterated. Dusty find themselves the kill they need, and they're looking just to go straight back onto Baron. Monk's still full HP, but Dusty may just back off and look for the dragon.
Yeah, they're looking towards it. They don't want to stay on the Baron because it takes so long, and Energy has that TP available. Ultimately, Legions wasn't able to find the kill onto him at the end, even though he got him so chunked out. They will just go to the dragon, and that should be that just secured them. I don't think the MNM have time to contest this. They'll go down in seconds.
Oh, this will be the second dragon picked up for Dusty. They inch ever closer towards that Infernal Soul. But it is a long way away, and they have to contest every dragon. MNM have put themselves in a good position to kind of contest these, but for now, bases are coming in. Jack Spectre with the Infinity Edge, the fully stacked Mirror Mana, and the Hurricane. At this point, his damage is going to be nasty. You saw how much he was able to do on the split on the grouped up MNM members. It looks like MNM, they don't really mind. They're just going to try and start up this Baron once again. It's going down fairly quickly. Legions is stepping up, and he's going to have to get in time. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. MNM get themselves Baron, but it looks like Fiddle and Dusty don't want to give it up quite yet. Legion shifting forward. Coincidence trying to close the gap for the moment. Eliwood pops the Unbreakable, gets himself a Pulverize off. Legions has to jump away for the moment, and MNM just sneak away a Baron, and they get out.
Yeah, just rough reset timings from Dusty, and you can see MNM, when they're playing in that situation where it's a choke, where it's front to back, where there isn't any flanks, they feel confident. They know that tanks can stand in the front line and soak the damage, and they're still feeling quite relevant right now. Ultimately, Jack Spectre doesn't have the armor penetration to cut through them yet. MNM managed to get that Baron and get out. But the question's going to be, what can they do with the Baron? It's still 3 minutes 45 till that soul. Dusty have denied it for quite a long time now. Realistically, we're looking to see if MNM can push up and crack some towers, but the problem is they're so afraid to push up. You're concerned about those TP flanks potentially coming in, about not checking an area vision, and suddenly Legions is behind you. Those are the things that could end the game almost instantly.
Yeah, Legions is absolutely terrifying at this point, and also Jack Spectre, like I said, also now able to pump out a fair amount of damage himself. So it's on MNM to effectively use this Baron push. But looks like for now, Dusty actually willing to kind of stay, chill back, get control, and just catch the waves where possible. There isn't really any vision for Dusty in the surrounding area.
And we're looking at what is really MNM doing right now. It's like they've got the Baron, they've started to push up, get some vision control. But you can see how tentative they are. And they should be. They absolutely should be. I'm not faulting it, but I'm saying it makes it very hard to push down these objectives and break the base when you're scared to really push up. They are rotating down towards this bot lane tower. Definitely nice to take, but not really going to change the state of the game too much.
Legis is actually bolting up towards the top lane. Obviously, he has a teleport available to him. But Siege is getting started up by MNM bot
As a Lich
side.
Bane as well.
This could be incredibly risky. There's no real wards for him to teleport to, so Dusty maybe just willing to give up this inhibitor turret in a trade for a top lane turret for themselves. Legions is going to do a lot of damage to these turrets, but that's the inhib down. Empowered recalls for MNM. They're not going to trade inhib for inhib here, as much as Legions might want to. He does obviously have the blue pot, so he's going to do a lot of damage to these structures, but the bases are coming in, and Legion's half health's an inhibitor turret for an inhibitor bot lane going down. That means the next Baron could always potentially be a scary point if you got waves pushing in on the opposite side of the map. However, I do think Dusty maybe deliberately gave this up just so they could funnel more gold into Jack Spectre, who is getting ever closer to that Death Stance.
Death Stance will be huge, as will the Mortal Reminder when he has the armor penetration. That's the point where really Kakan will just start to feel a lot less tanky. There's a big period of the game where tanks do feel quite invincible, but eventually an Aphelios will just melt through him, especially with the right weapon combination. And that would be the concern, because then, you know, you can't buy as much time with your front line. Void Staff picked up for Legions. He's full build. Got everything in the pocket. Everyone else is still working towards those last few items.
Eliwood actually might just get jumped on by Legions. That's a lot of damage. This might be a dead Alistair. Not what MNM need. Jack Spectre moves forward to try and collect the bounty, and Legions slides in. Another kill onto the Kassadin. He's full build at this point. He's level 17. He's almost level 18. This is basically peak Kassadin at this point. The only thing they really need to make sure is that Jack Spectre hits his peak. And then MNM have to be very scared of the damage threat from Dusty. However, Energy, Death Cap, he's got almost full build on the Azir as well. He's going to be hurting as well. But I do worry that Dusty are now starting to look at the outscale
The thing is
over
now is
MNM.
that this dragon's just lost, essentially, because you're 4v5. Eliwood's dead. He's not going to spawn until the dragon's up. Dusty have complete control of the area. You just have to give this dragon up, and that means the soul is delayed once more, and next time it's going to be Dusty who potentially can take it.
Legacy Shurima will get placed down by MNM, so they have somewhere to hide under, but Dusty just going to start up this dragon. Will be somewhat quick, but the members are collapsing in, and it's actually being a bit tentative from Dusty. But look at Coincidence once again, doing the Coincidence special, looking for that flank. Legions jumps over the wall, looking to join up with the rest of the team as Eliwood finds out Coincidence. They look just to jump onto him. The Slicing Maelstrom gets used as Zhonya's. Onto Energy, Chelm goes the golden for the moment, though. They get the shuffle back, and actually MNM have found their opening. Jack Spectre CC for absolutely ages, but now he's trying to turn it around. Legions gets Monk, and Jack Spectre, he's the only one left to do damage. The front line is cut through, though. And Jack Spectre's still got the health bar to work with, but MNM, too dangerous, too scary. And this will be Infernal Soul over to MNM.
MNM just managing to take the team fight out of nowhere. Energy just huge on this Azir, untouchable. It feels, and Dusty waited too long. The Alistair was able to turn up. And I feel like if they pulled the trigger sooner, they would have had a chance on that one, but they were tentative. Now, Infernal Soul over to MNM. And we can see in this team fight, the great CC from Alistair to stop Coincidence. And when it comes down to the CC, there was a great Zhonya's coming in from Energy. Monk was able to buy some time. The Emperor's Divide comes in. And again, if you're not able to get that backline access, Dusty are just going to struggle. There's no armor penetration on Jack Spectre. It took him so long to kill Kakan. He needs to finish that Mortal Reminder before he's really going to be able to shred through him.
And this is what I hit on. The Super Waves pushing in the bot side as Baron spawns up. I do want to kind of note also.
Mortal Reminder.
Okay, so he's got the Mortal Reminder now, so he will actually start to really hurt these tanks. I do want to hit that Chelm. I think his target selection with his ultimate was kind of garbage. He went onto Energy, who had Zhonya's. So Energy just propped the Zhonya's the second he saw the Nocturne jumping at him. If that was Monk was already low from the initial burst from Legions. That could have been a kill on Monk, and then maybe some of the sustained DPS from MNM would have disappeared. And they could have gone for Energy post Zhonya's. I don't know. That's maybe I'm pulling hairs on that team fight. But for me, I felt Chelm's ultimate was a little weak.
I definitely think the thought process might be Energy is the bigger threat. And by Chelm forcing his Zhonya's, it means Legions can go in. But I agree with you. I think if they'd killed Monk, it would have been a lot harder for Energy to carry through that fight. But he is a problem. You know, we talk about the scaling, but if the casting needs to get on top of the Azir if he's really going to offer that outscaling element, offer that power at level 16, because Energy's doing so much damage. And now they're starting the Baron, but Dusty are closing in.
Paranoia's being used. This is Dusty closing ever creeping ever closer to MNM, but MNM do get a little spooked and step away. Supers have stopped pouring in, and Coincidence doesn't actually have the flash, but he has a blast cone to use. It will get spotted out. So the second he steps up, and half elf onto Baron. Coincidence waiting on this blast cone. Very, very patient play, but Kakar's getting chunked out. Jack Spectre does so much damage. Moonlight Vigil gets thrown out, and Coincidence actually is going to be forced to back off. The teleport's being used, and Dusty is just committing right now as Coincidence dodges out on the Ashar. Coincidence has to try and buy some space from Aesthetic, but Legion's got the blue pot, and he will cut through these structures. Jack Spectre just mincing Eliwood's health bar. They were able to survive for the moment. As Legions will look to just close in onto the inhibitor, should be able to take this down. The blue pot doing so much work for him, and Dusty kind of playing MNM for a fool there.
I mean, this is the point. Jack Spectre gets his mortal reminder. He starts attacking Kakarn. Kakarn just shreds in seconds. This is where it becomes scary because MNM's front line is just no longer relevant. It's all about Monk and energy. And look at this Baron.
Look at that Baron. It's melted. They can't get in time. Dusty get the third Baron of the game, and MNM are just left scratching.
This is where things get scary because the agency is all on these backline carries for MNM. Because Aesthetic, Kakarn, and Eliwood, they're just paper. And you've now given over the Baron to Dusty. They get that extra gold, the extra stats. They're looking towards that Elder Dragon as a big objective, but they don't even need it right now. They can play a 1-4 composition or a 1-3-1 with Legions in the side lane because there is no one who can comfortably hold him right now.
Legion's actually sold boots and then rebought the boots. So I'm assuming he's maybe thinking about just buying a death cap.
I think he might not have had enough gold, so he's checking.
Yeah, I'm assuming he sold and then undid the sale purely because he didn't have enough money for the death cap, but he's already hurting. Yeah, he hasn't got enough yet. He's getting closer, though. Once he picks up a few more waves, then casting him with death cap and no boots is going to really, really hurt.
Yeah, at this point of the game, you don't really need boots on the Cassadin. When you can Rift Walk every 1.2 seconds or whatever, it's a short time. And that is the real threat. His damage is just on an absurd level. MNM just trying to clear out these waves. Was a bit of a 1-4, but it looks like they're grouping up towards the Legions. Trying to clear out some of this vision, but they will allow the casting just to keep pushing up towards the top side.
Ashara does hit onto Fiddle. MNM actually want to pull the trigger, but a good flash out means they are just going to be able to make their way out for the moment. You can see that the Coincidence is moving the minion wave up in the mid lane, escorting it up with the Baron buff. It does feel like Dusty maybe have a little bit... Maybe they're a little lost on what they should do next. Is maybe they're just going to wait up for the Elder Drake spawn.
And this is the thing, is like, what does the Baron actually mean? What do they actually get from this Baron? A bit of gold? Okay, you get sprinkles. You already full build on the casting basically, other than selling boots. Just not too impactful. And it's really going to come down to this Elder Dragon team fight and who can execute. I do think things like the Aphelios and the Castin are scaling harder, the Karma as well, given strength in that element. But simply put, MNM's composition is easier to execute on. You protect your backline, you're good to go. That is the simple win condition. If Energy and Monk survive, you should almost always come out ahead in this team fight, unless you're having a massively split one. So it's just protect, form around your backline, whereas with Dusty, it's much more nuanced around finding those windows to punish these carries on the backline, because if you overstep, you will just die. Now Legion's looking.
Yeah, Legion just gets jumped onto. Loses a bit of health, but is able to make his way out. Although Dusty do have the vision control around this area. There are a few wards here placed dotted about by MNM, but not really enough for them to actually go into this pit.
And it's so scary, especially with the Infernal map. The flanks they can find.
Oh no, Jack Spectre has to use the cleanse. The shield is on. Fiddle is there onto that backline, but they've got the damage onto Jack Spectre, who's forced to flash away. In comes Coincidence. That slicing Maelstrom is just game saving. Energy getting chunked out by the towers. Jack Spectre remains alive for the moment, and Legions looks for the assassination. Down goes Energy. Jack Spectre still firing away. You can't kill the Aphelios. MNM are sent packing as Dusty walk away with the fight. The teleport's being used, and Eliwood has nowhere to go. Jack Spectre will force him away from the mid lane, and Dusty may just have done it. They may just have pulled this game back.
And we talked about the win conditions for the team fight. MNM decided to play it differently. They wanted to dive the enemy backline, but they don't have that in their composition. They didn't protect Monk. Energy ended up on his own, and Dusty were able to clean up and take the game.
That was a very, very close game, but 41 minutes on the clock, and Dusty go 2-0 in week 5.
Definitely close. I will say that for sure. And MNM are now at a point after losing that where they are, it's a wing and a prayer to make it out of relegations, but they definitely put up more of a fight there, and they really made Dusty work for it. And bear in mind, Dusty beat Tricked yesterday, and obviously there's a lot of things we can look at in the game and said, yes, this can be improved on, this can be improved on. But I think for MNM, it was a huge showing, even if it may not change this fate of their split. But for Dusty, it was some decisive decision making. I think they've shown that they are so good at playing around things like the backline access from Quinston's. His Kennan's been stellar. They were able to find the right fights for them and look to punish. And the responses with the TPs were really strong in that regard. It just wasn't enough for MNM, but Dusty, a 2-0 week is huge for them.
Honestly, such a big week for them. Heartbreaking for MNM, as I believe it's next week they got to play Fnatic and Tricked. So a very, very rough week for them coming up. But I think at least MNM can walk away with saying, okay, we didn't just get stomped every game. They put a fight up in both their games this week. So maybe there's something there. We'll have to see next week. But for Dusty, this is an upward trend, and you know, this could show some life for the team. This could really start to upset the apple cart over in their group. But for now, we are going to let the analyst desk break that down. So before that, we're going to cut to a quick break, and we'll be back with the analyst desk in a second.
What was that game? Something happened in that game,
there's
and
something
it was
going wrong, but clearly in the game something went wrong as well. So yeah, I don't blame you.
yeah, I'm kind of flabbergasted. I don't really know what to say. That was like without a doubt the biggest fiesta that we've had throughout the entire NLC split. Yeah, where do we start? Trouble, take me away. Where do we start here?
There's two types of close games, right? You're sort of like on the macro end, and you're like, wow, look at this play, and wow, look at this play. And this specific game was like, what is this person doing? What is this team doing? Oh my God, what is this team doing? It was exactly like you said. It was a beautiful fiesta to watch. The game was completely back and forth. I had to choose a play of the game, and every time I was writing another one. I literally had play of the games for both teams because until the end, I just didn't know which team was going to win.
I think no one knew who was going to win that game. It was that close, right?
I mean, that game was just a lot of fundamentals not being the right place for both teams. Let's be honest. It's really hard looking in this game and be like, oh, you did that really well. That's why you won. No, there's a lot of mistakes. And in the end, there was a composition that had a really fat Kassadin, and there was a composition that didn't. On the contrary, I would say that from the draft they had, considering all the mistakes they made, MNM played quite well. We talked about on the broadcast in the beginning, what fundamentals on Dusty can we abuse? Oh, the bot lane have been looking a bit struggling here lately. And what do we know? Well, the bot lane is performing really bad against Monk in the beginning. We actually get Monk fed here. And we actually see the aesthetic that we talked about and highlighted, Trouble highlighted him as well, that he's actually a jungler that actually can perform well too. In the end, I still see that MNM needs to synergize better with a new roster. It's only a week old, so obviously there's mistakes. Unfortunately, it's just too late, but Dusty's still a big question mark to me.
I don't think you can come out of that game without question marks for anybody
Too
involved,
many.
I think. I think it was...
I've watched a lot of LCS games. It was very similar quality, so...
Medic gets the jab in whenever he can, of course. But in all seriousness, that is bad news for MNM. Bad news for relegation as well, because as Medic quite correctly pointed out before we went into the game, this is not all lights out for MNM. But this is, I've got to change the fuse in the fuse box before I even got a chance of turning the lights back on. This is, I've got to win every game before, and then Barrage has got to lose every game as well. And that's the only chance that I have of getting out of a relegation spot at this point in time. So MNM, the best they can do is go on to win every game from this point onwards. And even then, that is not enough to get them out of relegation.
In all honesty, I would have to say that MNM have to be clear what's going on right now, right? Because you're going up against the Trick, you're going up against Fnatic. I would say maybe be okay with going into the relegation and then focus on winning that and getting back into the league. I think this could be their focus right here because they have to face reality. These next few matches, I think, will be a good experience for them playing up against the better teams to try and get their act together. I don't necessarily think they looked bad, but I feel like Dusty looked bad as well. It was so you can't necessarily see how much better MNM is doing in the long run. So I think they should take the next few games as a practice mode to go through the relegation series.
I agree with that. I think if you look at it from the other side of the coin, like looking at Dusty, this is hopefully a little bit of a wake-up call for them because this game should have been over by like the 20-minute mark. You had a Kassadin who was 11-1 at one point and you weren't able to close it out, and credit to MNM for holding on, but Dusty made a lot of mistakes. They only have one game next week against Fnatic Rising. I hope they take a little bit extra time to prepare for their final week, because if they can pick up a win against Munster or against Barrage, they're actually in a really good position to make it into playoffs. And I think at the start of this week, we really wouldn't have expected that for this team.
And just to emphasize on that, I have never seen a Kassadin in competitive play that spiked around the mid game and fell off in the late game. That in itself is like, I was just blown away, honestly.
11-2 Kassadin, right? You expect an 11-2 Kassadin to do well. I think Dusty were trying to 5-head draft that a little bit too much, in my opinion. I feel like they really gave them, there was too many moving parts. I love the way that Trouble described it the other day, when you've got the gears for the machine, right? This was like gear, like 20 gears going on in this machine. To actually execute properly required the right circumstances, and that's why I think they found it so hard. But credit to Dusty, they did utilize legions in a split push scenario, which did give them a lot of breathing room in that game, and that was well played to them. Guys, Trouble did briefly mention that she had a very, very tough time selecting player of the game this time round. Let's take a look at what she did select. So Trouble, let's walk through it.
All right, so if I remember correctly, the Nocturne, the fight starts with the Nocturne not actually having ultimate available right here. Okay, I can't see because my screen is very laggy, but they do catch Jack Spectra. Like he had the Mikkels from his support, and he ends up surviving. Now, keep your eyes on Jack Spectra, okay? I don't care about anything else, because this guy went full-blown 200 years on that Aphelios. Not even a Death Stance Aphelios, okay? This guy completely dismantled them. Here is the 4-item power spike, and he just did his job. He just survived, played in the backline. No one cared to chase him. Everyone thought he was dead. Well, guess what? He killed everyone else.
I think I need to get some insight from the teams, and I believe I have Legions standing by for an interview. I will double check that that's all right. He's not actually in the channel with me right now, so I can't quite find out whether Legions can hear me. Might need to get him up and undeafened. I'll wait on my production to bring him up into this channel so I can hear him.
Hello?
Because right now, oh, here we go. I think he's still currently deafened, though. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, well, that's really weird. It says on Discord that you've got your deafening, dude. Okay, right. That game. I can hear you now. Oh, you're on a different account. I see. It's I've got 2 accounts in Discord. Guy, don't worry, mate. I'm getting completely confused. You're on the account. Yeah. I can hear you now. You're on the account that says Will, but there's also an account that says Legions in the chat. So I got really confused. Okay, got it. Right. So let's talk about that game. What happened? You got incredibly fed, but you were finding it difficult to find the angle in team fights. What was stopping you guys once you were like 6-1 or whatever it was from just taking over the game?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Do you hear me?
Were we doing that whole interview and you were completely muted? Guys.
Oh my God. Okay. Can you
do you know what, mate? I screwed up the start because I was saying I had no idea which one of you were in Discord, and then we just conducted about half the interview completely muted.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the start. Okay, I asked the question, why weren't you able to convert on the lead that you got on the cast-in the mid-game? And you were explaining, so let's go again.
So, it was really hard to finish all the fights or like get onto them because they had so much disengage with Astra ulti and 3 tanks on top of the carries. So we had to go for like so many different angles, and it was really hard to get mid prio. Like mid prio was so like important in this game, like to get vision for our ankles to come from. So that's why it was really hard to finish this game, for example. Right, you don't hear me?
Yeah, and actually something else that what I wanted to mention was in terms of the actual team comp that you were executing on, was it purely about diving Monk, diving Azir, getting to the back line? Was that like your whole game plan with the draft that you went for?
Yeah. So like we kind of got idea how to play the game like early on, but when we saw like Ashe and stuff that had like 0 mobilities, then we went for like full dive comp with Kennen, Kassadin, and Nocturne. So okay, I'm muted. So
I was waiting for you I was waiting for your mouth to stop moving to ask the next question because I couldn't hear a word you were saying.
Yeah, but at the beginning of the draft, we like kinda got an idea how we want to play. But when we saw like they picked Ashe like early on, then we went for like full on Nocturne and stuff and Kennen, and like we were not sure if we would want to play Cousin there, but they banned like LeBlanc and Ori, so I kind of had to go on Kassadin because it's really good against Azir.
Yeah, I think at the end you managed to sneak out the win. Obviously, you're looking towards playoffs now. I'm just going to quickly check. You've got about, 3 games left in the season? You kind of comfortable going for playoffs? Do you feel like you're going to be in a good state to hit that point?
Yeah. Like if we keep playing like we did yesterday, I think we have a really good chance of getting through the ranks. But like today, we kind of had a messy game, but I feel like we have so much more to prove. And I think we are really trying to show that we are a top team.
Of course, Legions. This is my favorite interview of the entire season. Thank you so much, mate. It was hilarious, and I'm sure I'll get to see you again soon. See you later.
Thank you, guys. You're doing amazing.
Oh, expound. So
Okay.
just for a sequence of events there, Guy was he was muted in Discord, then unmuted in Discord. Excoundrel still thought he was muted in Discord. Excoundrel then realized he wasn't muted in Discord, but he was muted on Google Hangouts. So then he unmuted on Google Hangouts so the stream could hear him, and muted in Discord so Excoundrel couldn't hear what Legions was saying, and he was literally watching the screen to watch when Legion's mouth stopped moving so he could ask the next question.
And then I was laughing because everybody was taking the absolute mickey out of me in the chat that we've got for production, and I just couldn't stop laughing. And I was like trying to hold it together, but oh my god, guys!
You know what? It was really good. You were like really into the
insightful.
mouth moving. You were like, I agree with what you're saying.
Yep. And he still gave us some really good points at the end, like when we could actually listen to it. Like the idea that you needed to pick Kassadin into the Azir because of the good matchup instead of going for something maybe with a worse matchup. They were obviously putting a lot of impetus on Legions being a key carry for the team in that game.
Guys, I know we only had 2 games today, but we do have some replays to go through. We can have a look back at those 2 games that we did get to play. Just as a brief mention, you can go to social media and NLC LOL, I'm sure, on whichever social media platforms you can get hold of, and there will be, I believe, results being posted from the other games that we weren't able to show and were postponed, so make sure you go and check that out. But let's have a look at the games that did happen today and go through them.
Does anyone want to start? I can start. I feel like there's not so much to go through, as she said. It feels like it was ages ago, but we started out with Ens against Nordovin. Who can actually forget that Mummus was a beast on towards this GP when he was against this Quinn, actually winning out on that matchup, doing really well. And Nordovin in general just really recovering from the day or the game we saw them pull off yesterday, where it just really looked dire. But it's complete 2 different Nordovins we saw, and I'm glad that we're finally seeing them back on track instead of the kind of trash can we saw yesterday, I guess.
You know what? I don't care for anything you just said, because that game summed up everything for today. It was up and down. It was all over the place. It was the fiesta represented into a game, and I couldn't have asked for a better, for a better closing act here.
I think it was a lot of fun to watch, and I think the big thing for me is that you saw 2 different stories today, right? You saw Nordovin solidifying the fact that they are a good team and they know how to play, and you saw Dusty not doing that. And like Dusty have a lot to work on. Nordovin have given me a lot more faith than they gave me yesterday, and I think we'll see next week how those 2 teams can develop throughout the rest of the split.
So I'm still taking a breather.
We need to remove Jake completely from the chat. I'm just saying, it's just not healthy. It's just not healthy.
We've got a play of the day. Believe it or not, we've got a play of the day from our 2 games that we did play. Medic, this is your time to shine. Step up to the plate, young sir, and take us through the single play of the day.
Okay. So I think this is from the Dusty game that we just watched. I believe it's that final fight. And I think the big thing that we're going to see is, as Trouble talked about earlier, Jack Spectre staying alive. But the thing I want to focus on is what Legions does, right? So Coincidence and Legion get a really late flank here. Jack Spectre just able to get out with his flash cleanse. But Coincidence does a really good job of locking people up. And then what Legions does is initially help killing Monk. And then he realizes like energy's limping away, and he's really the only key damage dealer left. So by taking out both of them, they know Jack Spectre with his Executioner's Calling can work his way through this front line. And it means that if you can get rid of the Ashe and the Azir early on in a fight, or before they've been able to kill either the Castlin or the Aphelios, you know you're going to be able to win out on those fights.
Absolutely. Honestly, that game is a whirlwind. Everything beyond that game was a whirlwind as well. But congratulations, obviously, again to Dusty for actually getting the win there. MNM still lamenting in the NLC right now. But, you know, they still have games to go. They can still get a win on the board, which I think would be more than enough for this season, given the way that it's gone for them. Guys, I think this is where we can wind down and have a look towards the standings. We can kind of see where we are and have a look towards where we're going to be in the future as well. This is going to be Division A. You can see didn't get too many games today, obviously, but this is what it looks like at the end, with Nordavind getting the 5 wins to level up against XL. XL were due to play today up against Riddle, but obviously that has been postponed, and we'll get the results from that later on. But right now, that gap is being closed onto XL. They can extend it by a single win if they do beat out Riddle. Let's go over to the next division and have a look. And this is Division B. Obviously, Fnatic still right at the top. MNM down at 0-7. And it is still pretty close between Barrage, Dusty, and Tricked and Munster. Obviously, 2 wins being the maximum separation for Barrage. Obviously, yet to play a game that they haven't had the chance to. But again, still all to play for in Division B. I think MNM the only ones that are really kind of out of the running at this point. But yeah, all to play for.
Yeah, and I think you have a couple of cool sort of battles that are going to be fought. You have the battle for possible first place between BTXL and Nordavind, and you have the battle for possible 4th place between Dusty and who's the team just above Dusty?
Barrage.
Barrage, that's the one. Thank you very much. So yeah, those are the 2 key battles I'll be watching over the next week, and I think that's where these 2 groups are likely to be decided, because the rest of the teams seem to be slotting into their spots.
Oh, guys, look, I hate to draw such a fun day.
Oh, sorry, Excoundrel, you're muted. Can anyone hear Excoundrel?
I'm going to
I can't hear
ignore
you. Muted
Medic.
yourself, Excoundrel?
I'm going to ignore everybody on the desk. And I think with
Let's
that
go on a
bombshell,
serious end of
we
the
will
day,
see
okay?
you next week. We're going to have a serious end of the day on that bombshell. We'll see you next week. Bye.